Hey everybody, welcome to MT Guitar. Today we're doing a lesson on triad pairs, another music theory lesson that I think you'll enjoy. It's one of those things that you can actually practice without fully understanding every theoretical thing about it. So at the very least it's a nice exercise. So what I mean by triad pairs is, let's say you're in the key of A. A triad pair, to define it, would be a triad that is a whole step away. So it's a pair of triads. So, for instance, if I'm in the key of A, we might have a flat 7 chord, which would be G major, which is much more common than G sharp diminished, which we really hardly ever see in pop and rock. You see it in classical and jazz here and there, but generally we would see a flat 7 chord, which would be G major in the key of A. We also might see 4 and 5 chords, which would be D and E. There's a 1, 4, 5. Here's a flat 7. Right. So triad pairs are basically a whole step apart. So if I have A and G, that's a whole step apart. We know it's a whole step because it's 2 frets down. The root is 2 frets down. 5 to 3, A to G, or open 5th string to 3rd fret 6th string. So a triad pair would say, all right, we're going to play an A major triad. Let's say we play it here, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings of an A chord. A nice second inversion A major triad. If I move it down to G, I would just move everything down 2 frets or a whole step, and I would have a G major triad second inversion. So I created a little loop here, and I want to show you what that sounds like. I'm just going to limit myself to that, what I just showed you there, all right? That's the simplest. Here's an A triad, down to a G major triad. Okay, so I went. Actually a good warm-up right there. Playing an A major triad followed by a G major triad. Now, I can move that up all the shapes of caged, as well as all the string sets. So for instance, if I have a shape of E shape of A, it's getting late, that would be a nice shape to try some triads out, and I can go down to my E shape of G, all right? I do have some lessons on caged you can check out. I'll leave some links in the description below. But basically, these are bar chords we're all kind of familiar with probably. So if I take the first 3 strings, that would be a triad right there. That's a first inversion A triad. It has the 3, 5, and 1, so it's a complete A chord. If I take that down a whole step, I would have a G triad. So let's see what that sounds like. Well, actually before we do, we can also do that. Triad from the E shape, which I have separate videos on, and then this is a power chord, so we want to go first inversion. So now I have all these A and G triad pairs. All right, same thing happens when I go to the D shape. I can go A to G, and the C shape. All A to G triad pairs, and finally up here, this is the A shape, up 12 frets. But we also have this one, okay? And we also have this one, which is right here, and this. Okay, so let me try all those over this A to G chord progression loop here. Now, obviously, I wouldn't probably play that in a solo that strictly. What I was doing was limiting myself to only A and G triads as an exercise. And that's something you can do in your practice sessions. You can actually limit yourself and say, yeah, I'm only going to play A and G triads. Now, you don't have to do it fast. You don't have to do it like I was doing it where I'm trying to, race around. That was for demonstration purposes, but really, nice and slow. Da, da, ba, da. I went to a C shape of G. Now I'm going to go to A shape of G. See? And when I'm on the G chord, I might want to start on a G and then go up to an A, right? As opposed to A to G on the A chord. So that's one example. And this will help us with our triads. The other thing we can do is, I'm just going to erase that loop, and we can understand that the 4 and 5 chords of a major key are a whole step apart. So, what if I have a more, diatonic chord progression with the 4 and 5 chord, with the 4 and 5 chords? I can now do triad pairs between those. So let's say I take the same key of A. No, let's do key of G to switch it up. And I'll throw in the C and D chords, which are 4 and 5 chords. I'm just going to make a loop on the spot. I don't even know what it'll sound like, but let's try it out here. Okay, 3, 4. Here's the 4 chord. Here's the 5 chord. Here's the 6 chord. Back to the 4 chord and the 5 chord. Loop it here. Okay. So I'm going to try this out, and anytime there's the 4 or 5 chords happening, I can try this triad pair. Otherwise, I can just stick with a G major triad. All right. So I'm limiting myself to G major triad over the 1 chord, and 6 chord is fine. And the 4 and 5 chords, I'll do some triad pairs. Let's try it out. Let's see here. There's a G triad. Here's a C. Up a whole step. Back to 1. Even though it's E minor, it's all right. C. Back to 1. Just G, C, and D. Let's try a little quicker. It is a sound. You could go quickly throughout it. As you can see, it's challenging, right? I basically could use a good session of doing this for a while, because really this is something where you're maneuvering around 2 triads a whole step apart, and it seems on the surface like it might be kind of simple because you would just move your hand up and down 2 frets. But what's tricky is going throughout all the 5 shapes, all the string sets of 3 strings at a time, and doing it in a way that sounds good, right? It's not like it's just automatically going to work. You have to kind of use your ear and say, well, should I do it now or later or slowly or fast? So you can do this over any song that has a 4 and 5 chord. Even if it doesn't go 4, 5 in that order, if it's just a 4 chord, you can try out the triad pair. Now, one last thing we can do is kind of a bluesy thing. If I have a bluesy progression, maybe let's say a 1-4, but the 4 chord's dominant 7, say E7 to A7. Actually, G will work because a 4 dominant chord, like A7, the key of E, that has a G note. So we could try a flat 3 triad, meaning a G major triad with the 4. So those are a whole step apart. So let's try a bluesy kind of upbeat blues, 1-4 progression, not a 12-bar blues, just a bluesy style of rhythm here. 3, 4. That's it, just a simple little loop. Every time there's a 4 chord, I'm going to go A and G. See if it works. Here's E. Here's G. Ooh, yeah, it works great. play it quite that academically in a solo, but I could do it tastefully and slowly, you know, as well as practicing it quickly. Kind of sounds groovy. Here's A, G. I mean, it's reminding me how great of an idea this is just to add to your vocabulary, right? I mean, that it's so nice adding that flat 3 triad in there. There's not even a G chord in the song, but the G just sounds right. So triad pairs are something that will never end, but you can get started on them now nice and slowly. Just pick some major triads and walk them up a whole step or down a whole step depending on where you're at. If it's a 1-4-5, you can take the 4 chord, go up a whole step to the 5. If you have a flat 7 chord like an A to G, you can go from A and down a whole step to G. Hopefully that makes sense. I will have a tab for this in the Patreon. You can check that out at the $5 a month level. And I really appreciate your support. Remember to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and the thumbs up. And we'll see you next lesson. Bye.